Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my wonderful 101, 101% hard video walkthrough. This is Operation 2, Part B, and we are still in the... Oh, this game, it makes me laugh. So, a lot of people are wondering why I'm speaking so highly of this game on a console that a lot of people believe doesn't have games, and I wouldn't call you wrong for having that opinion. I really wouldn't. I myself have said some pretty damn harsh things against the Wii U, and I still believe them to be true in spite of owning one. I think this system is lacking in a lot of ways, and I think its gaming repertoire at this moment in time is also lacking. A lot of people are looking to the future saying that it's about to change, and I agree with that too. But it still remains the fact that there are nothing or no games on the system. And that was a bit unfortunate to get hit by the flame through what looked like a bit of geometry, but you know, that's what happens when you try and be cheeky. You get punished sometimes. But I do think that this is a game that stands on itself, because I have been playing this on and off because there's been a lot of stuff taking my time when I would like to play this game, you know, for the last month or two, and whenever I come back to it, it always makes me smile. It always makes me play more than I end up playing. You know, I always want to go that little bit further or do something different, do this, do that. And I think that's a sign of a truly great game, and sometimes all it takes is one truly great game. And I really believe that, and you know, my PlayStation 4 acquisition will be for Bloodborne, and there's a chance I might not have any other games for that system for a very long time, because, you know, I'm the type of player who can do that, and I know there are a lot who share that with me. You know, if there's something that you really enjoy, for instance on the Wii U, when Bayonetta 2 drops, I'm going to be playing a lot of that, and you know, it doesn't matter then at that point that there isn't, you know, 50 games worth playing on the Wii U, and as long as there's something really, really good. And I think that's one of the things that Nintendo will always have, even if people perceive them to have, you know, a bad lineup. They will always have those games that if you do like them, you can like them enough for them to be enough to sustain you. And right now, I don't think the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4 has that. So, in the grand scheme of things, the way I look at it, I believe the Wii is winning. And I don't mean that from a sales perspective. I know a lot of people will completely disagree with it. I, myself, in some ways would disagree with it, but if I had a PS4 now and I had an Xbox One now, I would be playing the Wii U because I would rather play the wonderful 101 than, you know, a bunch of first-person shooters I've been playing for the last 15 years, and, you know, high-definition versions of games I've already beaten, even if they are absolutely stellar. So it's that kind of interesting thing. But I don't know the name of this dude. He's essentially the enemy type of the boss we fought, one of the brothers, and the trick to him is kind of simple. Once you get him guarding, you want to do as many Unite morphs as you can from your team, so that you can constantly be striking him and making him flinch. If you break his sword, you can juggle him and kill him, and then all you need to do while the chaos is taking place is watch for what he does. If he moves the left hand side of his body, it generally means he will do a melee attack, or the right leg, which is the melee kick, which can be guarded. If he moves the sword or does the jump, you have to avoid. Also, every so often, he'll do an action where he rears up in kind of like a kendo stance, getting all Bushido on us, and from that point onwards, if you summon the sword, you can do a counter to him. But this is the thing that reminds me of... what the hell was it called in Final Fantasy X? There was a boss in the monster arena, and you had to kill it to get, I think it was either Fortune Spheres, or Fortune Spacers and Luck Spheres. It was one of those. It was something you had to do a lot if you wanted to get your luck high on your stats when you were at the end of the game. And it looked a lot like this, and it had this move where it turned into a big sheet of mass and just hit every player like a brick, and it hurt a lot. And he reminds me of that, and the way to fight this creature is to use the sword. Sword combo him until it looks like he's going to attack, then do the spring to get away and don't get trapped like I just did, like an idiot. I avoided a little bit too late. And whenever he rears up and he starts to shine like this, it means you've got to use your sword to bend his laser back at him. And if you can get him in a circle where you're attacking, you're avoiding, and he's turning towards you constantly, you can kill that thing insanely quickly. If you can get all 100 wonderful ones into the sword, you can kill it even quicker. It's one of those monsters when you first fight it, you don't really understand what's happening and it seems to take a long time to die, but as soon as you just realise how weak it is to the sword and how easily its AI can be gamed, it's one of those monsters that should never really give you too much issue, aside from a grab when you get a little bit lazy, like I just did. But here is the boss of the chapter turning up again. He's going to be attacking us for the moment, so we have to use Unite Hand to spin that to get onto the scaffolding, and then from here it's going to go all cinematic. So sometimes when those wonder sequences come up and they don't tell you immediately what they are, because it takes a while for the bubble to turn up, because it goes with what he says, and a lot of the times with the wonder jump, sometimes you can be waiting a while for it to say wonder jump, and it looks very reminiscent of Wonder Hand. And when you play this game without volume, like me, because I'm an idiot, there are times when I'm drawing a gun before I realise I'm meant to be jumping. And it's one of those things where it perhaps might have been nice if there had been a distinction between Wonder Jump and the Unite Morphs actions, because sometimes it happens with any of the wonderful ones. It doesn't matter who it is, it'll just put them up in the corner, you see them and you think, oh, it's a whip or a hammer, and it's a jump. And it's never an issue when you're paying 100% attention to the game, which is what the game kind of demands and expects. But did you see it then? I was already drawing the whip before she said it. So in that instance, if it had said Unite Jump, or Wonder Jump, sorry, I would have been in an interesting situation of, oh goodness, that was it just then. That was one of those moments where I would normally be drawing and then it says Wonder Jump, and there was no real way to differentiate between which one it wanted. And I think it's the graph overlay that's on the edge of the screen, but it's one of those details that in the heat of battle it can be very difficult to see because it's quite subtle. So it's just one of those silly things I come across when I'm not playing with volume. And there goes my dog, which unfortunately I can't help because I do not own this house. But I just paused for a little while there so he can get it out of his system and hopefully stop being a stupid dog. And then we're back in there. So this is one of those moments where it kind of looks like you're behind where the game expects you to be, because Platinum have a tendency of making these really climactic and occasionally annoying. And the first few times through these moments, you die a lot. There's nothing much you can really do. They're designed in a way so that you shouldn't have to, and I just showed you a little trick there. You don't have to draw the Wonder Road, you can just kind of jump it if you do it right. And it's kind of funny that they go out of their way to make these moments look so on the edge and so close to death, you know, cutting that fine line, that razor's edge. But at the same time, you are surprisingly safe, and you only really notice just how safe you are when you try and exploit the leniency. Oh, see, just then, it had the same overlay as when it tells you to draw, so yeah, maybe there is no way to distinguish. And it's really funny because, do you see that effect now that you're seeing? That kind of, it looks like a, what's it called? You know, like a chipboard, a circuit board, how it's got those copper and metal and all those kind of patterns on it, and that's what it's using on the edge. I'm so unused to seeing that because on 101% hard, the game doesn't slow down when you draw morphs. On every other difficulty it does, and during that slow period when time is affected and being dilated, you see that little effect. And because, you know, for the last month or so, I've been playing nothing but this difficulty. Just, you know, when I'm not recording, I'll go and play a level when I can't be bothered to record, or I don't feel like I'm of the mindset of playing playing with recordings in mind. And I'll go and look for wonderful ones, and you know, I'll walk around with a hammer banging things to see if I can find secrets because the game's full of them. I love that smoke. It's such a beautiful sprite, that smoke. It looks great. So, I suppose to put like a stamp on it before we get to this next bit, which is one of my least favourite in the game, as it does a mid-level load. I'm not used to seeing that motif. And when I go back to playing the game with that slow motion assistance, it's going to seem really strange. So, this is a moment where I'm on the gamepad. You'll notice the resolution is a lot worse now. The game kind of looks like shit. That's because this is what you see on the gamepad. And how this works is, because I'm going to have to do double screen to show you what's happening, and unfortunately that graphic in the bottom, you know, the green line layout, I don't know how to get rid of it, so whenever I've got the bottom screen it's always there, and I've gone into the options to try and remove it, I've gone into a lot of things, but apparently it's just something that stays around, so I apologise for that, guys, but I'm not savvy enough, or maybe it can't be removed. So this is what's happening. On the TV, we're flying. On the little screen, we're inside the cockpit, and what you have to do is, you see the buttons on the floor, when you move your character onto it, it moves the ship. And it's this really interesting notion of moving left and right, jumping and shooting, and doing this kind of shmup section. And it's all good and well, except I don't like it at all. Because later on we're going to be fighting while this is happening, and at the end of it, when you get graded, you're graded just like every other situation, so it expects you to do big combos in this moment, shooting everything, while not hitting buildings, and it's like a rank runner's nightmare. And it's one of those things where you'll have to do this section until you learn it, until you have the path, because without the path, you just don't get the score that you need to get that platinum, and trying to navigate this and make sure it doesn't take damage while fighting at the same time, who do they think we are? You know, we're not all those Korean monsters who can do insanely gifted feats of hand-eye coordination and motor skill. It's just mad, and it's slow too. This is like a 10-minute section. And the first time you do it, there's the novelty factor. You're like, this is weird, this is a cool idea, it's a strange use of the Wii U controller. But I don't think it adds anything, and I just dislike it, and when it happens, it's one of those moments where I just kind of wish it weren't as long as it is. And it's another one of those moments where when I think fondly of, you know, retrying to get that perfect run to get those pure platinums, I think of a moment like this, and I don't want to retry, I kind of want to turn it off. It's just me, I guess. It's the way I feel. And I think this bit could have been really interesting, as we're fighting now against two tanks. And it's just, you see what's happening? Like, while we're fighting these tanks, it somehow expects you to be able to chain the enemies that are in here. Because look, there's these ships we need to be destroying, and it's just crazy. And I'm not doing a very good job, as you can tell. It's one of those bits where I kind of got pissed off with having it in that little screen, so I decided to go full screen on it. And I think at this point I'm looking at the controller, which, when you're in this mode, you can't control the camera. The way the camera controls is it responds to almost like a tilt function of the pad. So the camera can be really weird, and if you hold L1, you can fix it. But if you've ever tried to hold buttons while you play, it's awkward. It's one of those unnatural things. Like, holding a trigger is natural, holding a bumper's just not. It's not natural at all for your hand, and it's something you have to acclimatise to. And there are parts in this game where there's narrative happening when you're fighting, and the narrative is literally comic stripped across the screen, so much so it's almost impossible to see what the hell's happening. And this is a game that doesn't need any help confusing the player of what is happening, because it's very hectic, it's very crazy, it's very flashy, it's just madness. So when the screen is being bukkakied by all this nonsense and this narrative, which I've checked in the options and I could not find a way to turn off, the way to get rid of it is if you hold both bumpers. But once again, folks, have you tried holding both bumpers while you play a game that involves using two analogues? It is an unnatural position for your hands, and it's something that we're just not really inclined to have really done much. And there's an easy fix to this. There should be an option in the menu, and there perhaps could be, I've just not found it, that turns them off. Or, instead of holding the bumpers, it could be toggleable. You know, that would just fix it. And I don't know if it's an oversight, I don't know if it's intentional, you know, maybe Kamiya's just trying to troll us, maybe he wants you to struggle to see while the exposition is getting all melodramatic all around you. But this is a dodgy fight. As you'll notice, I built the bridge, ignored him, and came to this enemy. So that right there was an example of the hero counter, and there was another one. So did you notice how I was in Unite Guts quite a long time before the hero counter came out? The reason for that is he didn't fire, and when he did fire, I pressed forward and boom, I got the counter. I cannot get it to work every time, but I think that's just because of the incredibly precise nature of the hero counter. Which on Bayonetta, the Moon of Mahakala, you just flick the analog, and for things like projectiles, you can spam it, and I didn't think you could, so when I saw people doing it, I used to think it was wizardry. I used to think they were just insanely good, and it turns out, for the spammy projectiles, you don't really have to time it, you just have to kinda, you know, bash it, because you're not going to get the perfect parries on them every time unless you want them. You're just going to get the blocks, and the blocks are all you need. But this here, because he has those spikes on him, it means we have to remove them with the whip, and this particular tank can fire at you, and he can fire in the air. One of the more annoying aspects of the spiky balls that he's firing is when you go up to them to try and pick them up with the gun, if you touch them with anything but the gun, they'll damage you. And it's very easy to do in the heat of all the madness happening. But once we come back across here, there's this fella, and as you can see, he didn't let me get on the screen, and once again, he's an enemy whom if we stand near him, will take damage. And it's an old hold-all from shooter games, but I still hate it. You know, I was watching... What was I watching? I was watching the Bloodborne TGS gameplay. Or was it TGS? I think it was TGS. And there's a moment where there's kind of a big enemy that's holding a brick, and it starts hitting at the character with this brick. And he's doing a pretty competent job of avoiding it. Oh, a little note here, folks. The bigger your whip is when you stun him and you pull his armor off, the more armor you'll pull off. With a 100 Wonderful Ones on your whip, or something to that effect, it generally takes 1 to 2 pulls to take all of his armor away. Beware though, if you stun him, and he's off balance off on one leg like that, you do not have enough time to build a full Wonderful One and get a good attack in, because he does a parry and a counter, and you flinch when you get parried on this game, and it opens you up for massive damage, and I wasn't aware of that until my recording session. But back to what I was saying, sorry. As we come to the end of the level, he was fighting this enemy with a brick, and he was dodging it quite well, and this enemy did this big overhead slam into the ground. It hit north. The character who the player was about west of him, and he was pancaked. Because either it had some kind of invisible shockwave, or his body counted as a weapon, and I hate that. I really do. I do not understand why they don't just program the weapon itself to be damaging and everything else to be fine. Because, you know, when somebody swings at you with a sword and on the end of the swing kind of catches you lightly with their elbow, it shouldn't do the same as a sword, because everyone would use elbows and there would be no swords. But thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.